Witch is a New England folk tale through and through. My limited exposure to the oral and written stories of the period seemed to spring to life when I watched this film. Maybe spring to life is too cheerful a phrase, as the whole endeavor is as bleak as you could put to film. Regardless, the way the characters are written, the way that religion is presented, and the way fear are used are in line with long-standing folklore. There's a lot to unpack in this dense little film, so let's try to figure out what it all meant. A lot of folklore has very generalized characters. This may be intentional, or an artifact of handing the tales down through generations. The players are usually non-specific for their respective cultures or regions, meaning that they are representative of defined groups and primed for projection within them. They also tend to have clear flaws which lend themselves to pretty clear and direct morality tales. So it makes sense that the characters of The Witch are written in such a way. Take William, for instance. He is shown in the film's opening moments to be a man of self-asserted high morals, which cause him to reject the local burgeoning village his family has been a part of. He opts to create his own little hovel that he can barely maintain either through vegetation or game trapping. His efforts are not rewarded as time goes on. William is made to seem very incompetent and even goes as far to hide his shame by both selling heirlooms to cover his ass and lying through omission about having done so, which in turn puts the unreasonable assumption of guilt onto his daughter, Thomasin, who later calls William out for his hypocrisy. William himself said it best as he cried out to God for his prideful ways. Within the framework of folklore, this kind of character is a dime a dozen. Thus, The Witch succeeds in emulating source material while being arguably more nuanced than a 1600s tale, which itself speaks to the power that the orator has over the telling of a folk story. I doubt scenes like the one in which William and Catherine are discussing the family's troubles, while the kids listen through the thin floor, are taken verbatim from any old story. That scene lingers on the reactions of the kids and the ineptitude of the parents in the way that a modern story does. In fact, many folk stories leave out scenes with inciting incidents, so adding scenes like this feels natural if not necessary today. Direction like this occurs without sacrificing the generalizability that I discussed earlier too. Speaking of that nighttime scene, Caleb's story is pushed forward then, and also emulates a simple folk structure. Caleb is pressured both to become a man and stay away from childhood dangers simultaneously in the first act of the film. It's a situation primed for the exploration of family sway, cultural limitations, and balance. His attempts to jump forward into adulthood, even with the mild support of his father, end in the loss of the family horse, dog, and gun. He is also seduced during this maturation attempt by the tantalizing sight of what his family would consider perversion, especially since the thing that draws him in most directly is a sight he kept trying to catch from his sister. So yeah, definitely perversion. In the end, Caleb is brutalized to a fatal degree. In an absolutely amazing scene, Caleb pulls through long enough to either actually see or hallucinate his creator before drawing his final breath. Caleb's tale as proper folklore would probably maintain a lot of these elements, but would change depending on the teller. A child might be told a version that emulates the film version if they, say, had a fixation on sex. However, one could easily envision a version of the story in which Caleb's vice was drinking. Instead of a corset-clad witch, we could imagine a goblet filled with a stiff drink. I normally only talk about what is directly in a film, but I feel like this line of analysis makes sense. The film itself, or Robert Eggers at least, left a note that specifically talks about how this story is an amalgamation of a bunch of different stories from the period. So, a lot of the bits and pieces of this film were told to people at one point in time, and were likely changed in this manner. All of that said, another force that really shifts folklore is religion. Religion is a major part of how many people view the world and how its underlying functions work. Within folklore, this usually means that consequence and reason are skewed towards the beliefs of the orator. Christianity is the prevailing perspective in The Witch. This is of course accurate for New England in the era. An overly pious man feeling that his community is not beholden to his own strict view of God makes perfect sense. It also makes sense that his attribution style matches his dogma. So often William blames misfortune on a lack of worship or the forces of darkness. This view has been passed down to his children as well. Thus, pretty much everything we see comes from this perspective. To shift focus from the previous section, let's think about how a modern audience member thinks about folklore in retrospective. For someone living in that region in the 1600s, everything would probably seem completely normal to them. For me, however, I see a lot of superstition, tenuous connections, projection, and suggestion. William, for instance, does not tend to take agency or properly address his children's behavior in a way that gives them any either. He would rather keep an external locus of control. Of course, the supernatural is very obviously real in this film. Eggers has gone as far to say that the film is supposed to be taken literally, and there are scenes throughout that make clear the evils of this world. This does not, however, account for every poor outcome for the family. Sure, the baby going missing is directly malicious behavior, but other things like the corn growing poorly are less clear. It would be folly to blame everything on evil, yet that is what William does to cure his cognitive dissonance. Meaning to him that it's not that he is at fault, but rather the world is at fault. He might have moments of clarity, but even then he falls back on external forces. To me, this reads as a bad situation made worse by the beliefs of the people going through it. But if I lived in the era, maybe I would find William a kindred spirit. Others might read the situation totally differently, but seeing those differences seems baked into the film. Take the hardships the family faces. The film could see them solely through the myopic lens of the family's own spiritual beliefs. However, their inevitable crises of faith are focused on as well. Many scenes depict the struggle with religious reasoning. Seeing the mother break down not only over the disappearance of her baby, but over the fact that he is unbaptized, or seeing Caleb become emotional at the idea of original sin is heart-wrenching and adds layers of nuance. Most people project their beliefs onto simple tales like folklore, or to anything really. But capturing the specifics of Christianity here keeps the legends of the time while also allowing for critique. Though again, in this world, many of those beliefs are unfortunately founded in fear-inspiring evils. It's here that The Witch truly shines in its genre. It is chock full of imagery and sound design that is ominous and oppressive. Scenes don't just start with simple transitions. They get brought in by harsh strikes through wood. Babies don't just go missing. They pop out of existence as if they were nothing, and their blood is used in arcane bathing practices on camera. The moon is at its fullest in this film, which captures the heart of stories like this. They are often meant to scare the audience into action or inaction, even if that message is simple. Do not go into the woods. You will die. In the simpler world of folklore, each of the storylines would be simple morality plays, as discussed earlier. However, The Witch has a little more going on, or is at least less direct with its messaging. Bits of the film show the dangers of joking about sensitive subjects or delusions in a modern style, while also employing that old, deep fear to get somebody thinking about them. The events of the story culminate in the partially presumed death of every character but one, who is, only after facing unbelievable traumas, directly visited by the in-universe ultimate evil, a being we can assume to be the devil inhabiting the family goat. Thomasin, through her faults, still showed herself to be on a semi-righteous path throughout the film, but ultimately chose evil as every other option was stripped from her. If placed in that situation, butter and flying would sound pretty good to me too. I feel there is no correct reading of this sequence, which is the antithesis to my entire point and against traditional folklore, but... However, this openness is reflective of the types of modern films that The Witch is a part of, so arguably it is still an excellent folk story by reconceptualizing old stories for a modern audience, but still maintaining that clear evil and fear. I believe Eggers and his team did all of this out of a love of those stories in and of themselves, but also from an anthropological standpoint. The film works as both a pastiche and a meditation on how the weaknesses of men seem to reflect and bring about evil, both natural and supernatural, or any number of other reads, as the events seem quite open to interpretation. All of these reads are valid to me as it speaks to folklore's real, endearing quality. Malleability. Thanks for watching. And hey, before you go, my name is Ethan Grimes, if you didn't know. I've been running this channel for several years now. I've taken a lot of random breaks because of moving to New Mexico or finishing up my degree or whatever. I'm just adding this bit here to say that I am back for the foreseeable future. I have a plan. I'm probably going to transition to a little visual here or something, just like with a schedule, because I plan on doing a couple of videos in a row, focusing on a couple of directors or teams. So right now, obviously, I'm focusing on Robert Eggers. I'm going to do his movies just because he only has a few. And then I'm going to intercut that with the Studio Ghibli movies because I love them dearly. They're some of my favorite works of all time. And as well as Jordan Peele's movies because I really enjoy his movies and he's got a new one that's coming out. And so I thought that that was prime to do like a little mini retrospective, I guess. So yeah, if you want to watch that stuff, or watch ahead rather, so that you're not just thinking about something that was from 4 years ago or getting heavily spoiled because, I just discuss everything. Here's the schedule, so you'll be able to know. And of course, I'm getting back into this. Obviously, I want it to be successful, so all the generic things, like and subscribe and share it with whoever you think would be interested in this kind of bullshit. I'd really appreciate it just because, I don't know, I just want incentive to keep making this kind of stuff because I really enjoy making it. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Anyone who stuck around over the years, and just have a good day.